Kinesiology 223, Chapter 8, Book Presentation 8, also known as the last presentation for this chapter. The book provides some suggestions regarding strategies for diversifying sport, creating inclusive environments, and also some cultural awareness prompts as well. So let's jump in here. So if you wish to be more culturally competent as a professional, and I hope through the course of this class, as well as your own development, you start to hone these skills to be able to be more effective as a coach. You have this ability and skill that you bring to the table, like these raw goods, but you want to be able to refine those skills to become a better coach, or even in the context of being an athlete, become a better, if you will, better teammate to the other athletes in your program. But the three main steps that lead to becoming culturally competent are: you got to be aware, you got to be able to communicate, and then you have to create these welcoming environments and have these culturally competent environments as well. And when it comes to being a coach, I say it all the time, you have the luxury of being able to create your own environment and your own culture. So to that end, this is right within your purview and in your control. Now, with cultural acceptance and differences, they leave this as a heading, but I have to say, you really have to first understand when you're going through those three prompts that we just saw, you have to make the commitment, right? There's work that goes into understanding and having a self-awareness of your own biases and understanding how that can be detrimental as a coach, but also being able to get your athletes to buy into and have them do the heavy lifting to be able to understand that their own biases might be taken away from the concept of being an effective team player. So to really be effective in this, you have to have great self-awareness, and you have to be brutally honest with yourself as well. And doing so will allow you to kind of like parse out and really suss out where your blind spots are, understand their origin, and then find ways to not only process and understand them, but perhaps even change them if you can. Now, it's not to say you can change your blind spots, or every one of your blind spots. There are some that are just going to be so ingrained into you as a person that it might be difficult to actually make a full change. But if you're able to understand and process and then say, this is why I want to act this way, and it becomes something where you can control that reaction, different story. But it requires work. You got to take the time and go through some self-reflection. You'll end up having to talk with perhaps your teammates. Perhaps you end up having, as an athlete, you might have your coach bring in individuals that speak to you and have a little mini clinic on how to do these things and really have conversation regarding not only your views, but being able to share those views with other people on your team, and your teammates share their views as well. And you end up being able to become more, and I say it all the time, end up being more evolved as a person and more evolved as an athlete. And it's really a matter of kind of mitigating the blind spots once you understand where they are. And that just comes through self-awareness. Now, in business school, I was required to read a book called Kiss, Bow, or Shake Hands, and it's pretty self-evident from the title what that book is about. It was about international business and understanding the norms when you're conducting international business. I would contest that that spills over right into what we're talking about here. You'll have athletes on your team who will have different backgrounds and different experiences, and in some regard, you have to understand, what is the social norm for that person. If you have, like, we had an athletic director who was hearing impaired, I just went and learned a couple real basic sign language, hello, how you doing, thank you, that kind of stuff, just to be able to have basic communication with him in the hallways as we were walking back and forth. And little things like that matter. You take the time to be able to connect with that person on their level. It has its place. So I would urge you to make sure you can engage and greet people and communicate in a way that's appropriate to the culture. And this can be for your groups that you interact with on campus as well. You got to know the audience. As part of that diversity, equity, and inclusion group, we have a myriad of different people in different populations. And while I can't speak to all of them, you know, I try to accommodate and learn like the perspectives of the other people in the group, so I'm better attuned to what their challenges might or might not be when they come to that meeting. When you enter the workforce, you know, you'll be in contact with individuals from any number of different populations. Now, this can be on a macro level. They come from a different country or region, or more local, right? They might be from just a different surrounding community. They go to a different church. They practice a different faith than you. But, you know, you have to understand the population you're working with and kind of tailor your exchange to work with that population. So some final notes from the book, and I like these in terms of when you look at these, you should consider these types of programs. This is on page 180, I believe it is. If you read through these, they'll give you a pretty good perspective on some things to consider when delivering programs regarding what are norms, values, and ideals, etc. When you get into here on page 180, once again, a little further down, they also offer suggestions regarding we can take as educators or coaches when students have incidents of hate. You know, if you have like an altercation or some type of assault, there's ways you can intervene on that. And then you have to have what are called culturally competent interventions. When you have an issue on campus and you intervene in an issue, you may have to intervene in a way that, and it sounds silly because here you have somebody who committed assault, but you have to realize that that assault is probably a response. You know, that behavior is a response to a series of events leading up to that. It's not the cause, but it's the actual effect. And in some regards, in the process of showing sympathy as well as trying to understand more about that person, you know, in that regard, depending how you approach that issue with that person will depend on that person's background and experience. So guys, with that, that's the last one for chapter 8. Hope you enjoyed these presentations. Moving on to the next chapter. Thanks.